So today I thought I'd do a video on one of the most useful delay blocks in the Helix world and HX Stomp world, also on PodGo, I believe, the Crisscross delay. Now I'm running in stereo today, so you get the full enjoyment, but it also is really useful even in mono as well. So we're going to start with just a normal delay. This delay is quite complicated, but I will start by just showing you how to get a simple delay sound. We've got them both set at a quarter note delay. Now this is just whatever tempo you're playing at. Logic here is set to 120 BPM. So it'll give me a quarter note at 120 BPM. But we just get a really nice repeat. There's some modulation on there as well, which we can control. So I suppose the most interesting part here, given that they're both set at a quarter note, is to have a look at the feedback. What happens if we have feedback A high and feedback B low? So you can hear, because they're panned, this will also help with the separation to hear what's going on, because this is very complex. The left delay is carrying on a lot longer than the right delay. Now let's do the opposite. As expected, we get kind of one audible repeat on the left, and then they trail off, but the feedback B, which is going to the right here, carries on a lot longer. So how do we get a balanced sound? Let's go back to 40 for both. So there you can hear it's a lot closer with both delays, but they actually trail off quite quickly. So let's have a look at this crossfeed. It's currently set to 1. Now what this does is it feeds one delay into the others. Now the maximum you can feed the delays into each other is when the crossfeed's on 5. So we're going to start with it on 0. Now you can hear they still kind of tail off a little bit abruptly. What happens if we put it up to 5? So the first two are a bit more balanced now. Let's give it a bit more feedback. Let's try 60. I'm just going to turn the modulation off. So now you can hear that's decaying more like a traditional delay would. Obviously you can set the mix wherever you like. Now if we go to 50, it's a lot more like a traditional delay. So what we've got from this is you can actually set them quite complexly to affect each other depending on where the crossfeed is. If I turn it up to 10, it kind of inverts the pattern that we had when it was set at 0. You're not going to hear much difference at this point because they're both set to a quarter note. That gets a bit more interesting when you change the delay rhythm so they're not the same on both sides. But yeah, let's leave that at 5. Just a nice simple delay. That gets you a traditional delay sound, and there's all these various different points you could leave the crossfeed. Let's try 2.5. Okay, so now let's have a look at a different delay sound. Again, we're in stereo here. Same delay, crisscross again. We've got a quarter note and a dotted eighth. Notice the crossfeed, I've set it at 4 here, but again, you can play with that and find the right place for you. This is more kind of aimed at that 80s pop rock band kind of sound that has kind of become iconic for a particular guitarist. So if I play this kind of part, I'm sure you can identify where that's coming from. Let's turn the feedback up here, because now we've got two different rhythmic values. Let's try twice the feedback on one side than the other. I'm going to turn the crossfeed all the way off, so you can really hear the two separate delays.
So you can really hear the two separate delays. So you can really hear the two separate delays. So you can really hear the two separate delays. So you can really hear the two separate delays. So you can really hear the two separate delays. So you can really hear the two separate delays. So you can really hear the two separate delays. So you can really hear the two separate delays. So you can really hear the two separate delays. So you can really hear the two separate delays. So you can really hear the two separate delays. So you can really hear the two separate delays. So you can really hear the two separate delays. So you can really hear the two separate delays. So you can really hear the two separate delays. So you can really hear the two separate delays. So you can really hear the two separate delays. So you can really hear the two separate delays. So you can really hear the two separate delays. So you can really hear the two separate delays. So you can really hear the two separate delays. So you can really hear the two separate delays. So you can really hear the two separate delays. So you can really hear the two separate delays. So you can really hear the two separate delays. So you can
let's exaggerate the panning. So you can hear there, the quarter note feeds back for a lot longer. Now, because the quarter note is shorter, we probably want that with a bit more feedback than the quarter note. Now that seems to balance out quite nicely. Now the crossfeed comes back into play here because, again, it feathers the delays into each other, much like the Andy Timmons Halo. It doesn't sound exactly like that, but it's pretty close. We can even turn the crossfeed up even more. Remember, above 5, it starts to kind of invert the pattern a little bit. So you almost get like a reversing of the rhythmic subdivisions. So you can find some pretty quirky rhythms there. I'm not sure how much I'd use that, but certainly from 0 to 5 is pretty useful. Cool. So there we have a dotted eighth and quarter note thing, which is really useful for 1980s guy that plays as Explorer. You know, straight away puts you in that headspace. Now we're going to come to a slapback. That should be on a normal 16th. Now this is really useful for a load of classic country sounds. It was used on certain songs like Footloose, where you just get that really quick delay sound that makes it sound like it's just less dry but not hugely spacious. Like, you know, you can't hear loads of reverb. And this is a bit less tempo dependent. Obviously the 30-second note is a very quick delay, but it just separates it out from both being 16ths. Although that does also sound pretty good. Again, no crossfeed. Now, if we go back to the 30-second and put the crossfeed on 5, there is a slight difference, but it's a very little difference because it's such a short delay. There's 2, maybe 3 repeats because we've got such low feedback as well. But the great thing is that just makes any sound just feel a little more lively than completely dead. And then we turn the delay on. Just widens it out a little bit without sort of stepping all over it. Now, let's have a look at another sound. This is another dotted eighth thing that I believe much closer to the Andy Timmons Halo thing. The crossfeed at 5 is actually quite close to where we set this other delay. In fact, it's almost identical. But that just shows you how you can really change the character of a sound just by changing a few parameters with this. Now this I find really useful for when you're playing a solo with a lot of notes. So you don't want a really washy reverb or delay, but you want it to sound nice and clear. Now this is a 16th and an 8th note with not much feedback. Again, they're panned, so you're getting a stereo image. Crossfeed just at 1.5. Kind of sounds like the Robin Ford quick slapback with an 8th note, kind of like roughly Joe Bonamassa's 330 milliseconds. But if you play something like this, There's a lot of notes there, but there's some space around it, so it doesn't eat up the tone the way that some other delays might. So I really like these settings because it just gives that nice bit of space around it again. All of these are just different flavors depending on what part you're playing, what music you're playing, and what song, if there's like a specific delay for it. This last one, we've gone back to the quarter note settings, but I really want to show you what you can do with the EQ. So you can make it sound kind of echoplex-ish if you have a little bit of modulation, but you saw me just then turn down the high cut. Let's go sine and in phase. Now you can hear each time it repeats, we lose a little bit more top end because it's going through that high cut again and again, which is actually really nice, which is what we want. So for a really spacious echoplex type sound, it's quite a lot of delay there, but it doesn't eat the sound up because of that high cut. It's maybe not as clear as the delay that I just showed you if you're playing fast stuff, but if you want a really noticeable delay in, say you've got like a big ambient moment, there's a lot of delay there. But again, it doesn't just eat up the sound and sort of take you out of the way so you can't be heard. Obviously, you can augment that with reverb settings if you want. You can set the high cut wherever you want. The low cut, I generally leave it at around 200 hertz, so you don't get any of the really boomy stuff there. You can even set it a bit higher. Let's go 300. So then if you play something a bit chunkier, doesn't eat up the bottom end either. I'm sure you could get even closer if you messed around with the bit depth and the sample rate. I am still learning about what they do and how best to approximate various delays. But you can set this up to sound like a memory man with the modulation. You can set it up to sound like an echoplex. You can set it up to sound like a modern digital delay if you take the high and low cut completely out. Just turn them off. And you can set this up to basically do any delay sound that you want, and it doesn't use too much processing power. So it can sound pretty close to the transistor tape without taking up as much kind of space in your preset, particularly handy in an HX Stomp. So yeah, let me know if you have any delay settings that I should try out. Let me know which one of these delay sounds was your favorite sound. I would really love to hear from you in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in another video soon.